Alright, let's run another unboxing. Today let's talk about Jitsu and Fisto. So the first thing we're going to do, like normal, is we're going to take a look at the box art. Now we know about the one part of the box art that I tend to like, and that is the top part of the boxes. These are in rougher condition than some of the other ones that I've collected so far. They did not come in the perfect condition, but these two were much tougher to find in my area. In fact, this guy didn't exist at all. I had to get him online. And Jitsu was almost impossible to find as well. It's weird because he would peg warm certain stores, and then other ones I would go to, he would be completely missing, not there at all. So I ordered both of these online and took a chance. I'd say that both the tops of their boxes are pretty rough, but salvageable. So, starting with Jitsu, it says that ever searching for an opponent who can match him in combat, Jitsu channels dark energies to enhance his fighting powers. Pretty cool little story there in terms of his box. And as for Fisto, it says, the rugged fighter with the metal fist. Fisto uses his incredible strength to protect Eternia's enchanted forest. Two decent little storylines. And, well, let's check these figures out. Let's unbox them. Let's see how they look. We'll put them on the spinner and we'll talk about them. Okay, so let's start our talking points with Fisto. Fisto is a solid figure. I really like his head sculpt. I think it's just kind of unique. I like his ridiculous mustache. I like that he's kind of a little bit goofy looking. It's a little bit off-putting, but he still looks like one of those tough dudes. Cartoony tough. Almost like what you would see in a Punch-Out game, but still enough to actually catch my attention for real. I like him quite a bit. In fact, Fisto, as ridiculous as it may sound, is one of my favorite characters in the entire line. That's not a joke, he really is. He's one of my favorite characters in the entire line. And I started in Revelation, so my first introduction to him was about ridiculous.
He's back all right. I'd sure like to fist him.
What? And that caught my attention. Then I went back and started watching the Filmation and was like, okay, yeah, I don't know why, but I really like this guy. So, one thing, if I have to be disappointed about something, is his fist. I was hoping it would be vac metal. I was hoping very much that it would be vac metal. His sword is kind of interesting. I'm not sure exactly what style of sword you would call that. His build is, of course, about roughly He-Man, and in fact, of course, we know that they're reusing the body, so he is He-Man, but you get the idea. His armor makes him seem like he may be a little more bigger than He-Man. One of the things that I actually tend to like about him is he's kind of discussed in some of the stuff that I've read as being the strongest person, the strongest good guy warrior on Eternia, except for He-Man. And He-Man is augmented by special secret powers. So this guy is absolutely no joke. He may have literally had the shot of being the hero of Eternia on his own if he wouldn't have come across some of the stuff he came across, which is part of his corruption in like the Filmation and whatnot. But I have to say, one of the cool things about Masters of the Universe is that it's a property of imagination, and these are toys first and foremost. So they're avatars to the imagination. So when you buy a figure like this, you kind of make up the storyline because this is a very swords and sorcery type of thing. And my storyline is very different. When I look at this guy, the first thing I think about is that he's a proud warrior who knows where he hails from or anything like that. But the main story that I see for him is that he comes across Jitsu. And Jitsu is all about using dark powers and everything like that. And maybe, since this dude's the guardian of the forest, maybe those dark powers that are pulling into the blade and enhancing his powers, maybe he's practicing and he's destroying certain trees and things like that. And Fisto comes across him and he's like, hey man, what are you doing here? And his dark energy may be damaging the forest somehow. And during their confrontation, Fisto loses his arm. Well, then Jitsu goes on to hurt more people, and during his time of recovery, because we live in a universe of magic, he gets his arm fixed. He gets a replacement. He gets that cool arm that he's known for, and that grants him the kind of power that he would need to stand up to Jitsu. So he hunts Jitsu back down, and to guarantee that Jitsu can never hurt anybody again, my idea of the story would be that Jitsu uses this hand for his sword. All of his sword stuff is done with that hand. And in order to make sure that he can never hurt anybody again, he challenges Jitsu, beats Jitsu, and then uses his new crazy arm to bust his fist so bad that it's broken forever, that he can no longer wield his sword in the hand that he was originally right-handed, is what I'm saying. And then it turns him into a left-handed warrior, which he's not built for. He doesn't know how to use it yet. So he goes to Skeletor for help. Skeletor grants him a new hand, matching the same kind of power as Fisto, and then he starts retraining under the service of Skeletor with his other hand to get his sword skills back. He never quite gets he gets just about as good, very much like a Zorro thing in One Piece. He loses and then changes sword styles and then gets better and better and better, and that's what I see. I look at these two characters and I immediately just kind of hash a story in my mind. That's what I see from these two. To me, these two are the rivals of this story. These two warriors are the rivals of a different story that takes place on Eternia. A He-Man story, yes. A Masters of the Universe story, yes. But it doesn't have to involve He-Man. See, that's one of the things that I really liked about Revelation, is it removed He-Man from the equation and showed that this was a vast, expansive, adventure-ridden universe that could tell multiple stories through the imagination, an eternal amount of imagination, eternal possibilities on Eternia, where these warriors, these swords and sorcery things existed, and we could just do stories. Now let's talk a little bit about Jitsu, shall we? First and foremost, I really like his armor. I just think it's really cool. I like that gold and red. It's a proven color scheme in general. His hand is vac metal. And that I really appreciate, because it's not, Fisto's hand is not vac metal. I don't know why you would do that. I really don't. Like, sure, the other parts of him is just gold paint, and that's fine, but like with Fisto is silver paint all over. Not even his hand got the vac metal treatment. And I really think, and maybe Fisto came out before Jitsu, maybe there's something to that, I don't know. I don't know why they would make that decision, but I think it was in the wrong direction. It shouldn't have been that way. Both these warriors should have got the vac metal hands. There's always been a little bit of, I've heard, a quote calling out a racist thing with Jitsu, and I'll go for this. I think he's cliche. Do I believe they intended to be racist in his design? Not necessarily. I really do feel like they were pulling from a stereotypical warrior-esque thing. And if you took this kind of thing, a samurai, martial arts mastered warrior, and you took all the cliches of it, then yeah, he's, he is what he is. His ethnicity does fit, and then you give him the big katana, and then you give him the karate chopping hand, and you give him the beard, and you give him the haircut, and these are just exaggerated features that fit, but the same thing can be said for every single one of these warriors. I don't see it as being problematic, and I know I've heard from some people that people do believe that it's pretty problematic. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that it just fits an idea of cliche storytelling. It's easy, it's simple, it fits the idea, and it got another ethnicity into the line, which is important because we talk about things like representation, and it's important for there to be different kinds of people that populate this world that then make it a big, expansive, realistic, as far as we can get away with, world that include many different kinds of people from many different walks of life, from many different races, and all this other stuff, all these different cultures and things that mix together in a big, expansive, cool universe where everybody is involved. And I saw that the new one, the new Eternia character, he's going to be a good guy. Evidently, the back of his card reads that Jitsu is a good guy. That's cool because, once again, like I said, this is an imagination property and it's all about opening up the imagination. And to change that idea for the new Eternia figures, for him to be a wandering warrior who's a good guy, is kind of cool and shows that expansive idea that these things are always in flux. It's an idea of imagination, an idea of warriors, an idea of Eternia, eternal battles, eternal imagination, constantly in flux, constantly changing, constantly telling new stories. These are nothing but avatars for the imagination. That's why I love this line so much. That is the literal reason why I tend to love this line so much, is because there are no limits to what your imagination can do with these characters, and that's the point. That is absolutely wonderful. And I really wish that this was a property that would have kind of caught back on. And I don't necessarily see it. I have seen on a lot of groups that I'm seeing that kids are like playing with the property. Some kids are very excited to have it and they're going out with their parents and looking for it. But I can't help but feel like that's because their parents are introducing them and kind of pushing the idea. This is fun. Come have fun. Which is fine. But we got to be honest with ourselves. Would kids have necessarily taken to this without us going out of our way to be like, hey, this is a thing. Come have fun? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that this line is selling to kids, and I can't help but wonder if that's part of the reason why Motu, or rather Mattel Creations, is all of a sudden starting some made-to-order stuff, because maybe they're already seeing the writing on the wall, that without moving to a made-to-order format, or maybe even a subscription service in the long run, maybe these toys aren't going to make it through retail. And the best possible way at that point to keep the line going strong is to sell directly to the collectors, us, on a subscription or made-to-order service. I don't know if that's the idea. I really do hope that this is taking off. I do hope that it's selling. I do hope that some kids are into it, because first and foremost, that's what's going to keep these lines going. Retail lines rely on kids. They don't rely on me. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get some of these. But it's going to be in the continued buying of these, and we're not... I truly believe that we're a bigger part of the market than we used to be. I do. I do believe that action figures in general sell more to adults than they ever did before. But reevaluating and kind of looking at the market and learning the things that I've learned over time, I don't necessarily believe that we're not nearly the primary factor. I think that we're way bigger than we ever were in the past, but there's still a lot that we get and we go and then we're done and then we're gone. And kids may buy 2 or 3 He-Man. Why? Because one kid buys a He-Man and then his friend wants a He-Man and then his friend wants a He-Man and then his friend wants a He-Man and then a He-Man gets lost and they buy another He-Man. That's the way kids are. And then kids like color variants and things a lot more than we do. Sometimes we are all about, this is the character and this is all I want and I just want the classic and I'm done and I'm moving on with my life. And we're not necessarily sucked into the rest of the line, variants and changes and secret armors and this guy has lightning effects. Sometimes we are, but you get where I'm coming from. Some collectors want what they grew up with. That's the closest representation. They buy this, they're done. If this guy came out later on and had like a different sword and a different fancy armor, we don't know that that would necessarily sell to the collector. Maybe it would, but a lot of times adult collectors are very set in what it is they want, and they get what they want, and then they move on from the line, and kids are the people that then pick it up from there and keep the line going. So there is something to be said about that. And so I really hope this line is picking up, but I can't say for sure whether or not it is. And that is just the way that it is. Either way, these two characters are now on the shelf. I talked a little bit about them. I gave you an idea of where my mind goes, imaginative-wise, when I put these guys on the shelf. And either way you slice it, happy to have these guys. The next time we come in here, we're going to unbox I think the last main figure that I've acquired for Origins so far. And then I think we'll have to move on to doing some vehicles and some Masterverse stuff, because I will have opened all my Origins things up to this point. But regardless, I think we've been here long enough. We've talked about them, we've shown them, we've put them on the rotator, you've got a good look at them, you've got more than enough talking for me on a subject that, quite frankly, I don't even know if you care about, but later on.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.